Hello and welcome back to the Game Bet Match podcast. I'm your host, Manny Friedman, along with my co-host,
Brad Sloan.
and our special guest who was here for our Wimbledon preview, our 5.5 hour Wimbledon preview, Josh Hall. Welcome back.
Pleasure to be on. Got absolutely battered in the Aces draft, but I've come again.
Yep, and congrats to our Aces champion, Brad Sloan.
Yeah, I did want to call out something that Kumatmi Bro had said on Twitter. What I can't even find now. But basically, Kumatmi Bro, he said that it was an interesting draft and that Josh's team was going to dominate because of having Isner and Kyrgios, and then but Manny's team might be able to come back in the end. So I just wanted to let come at me, bro. You forgot about me. All that analysis, running your mouth on the Twitter, running your mouth, talking all that gibberish, but you forgot about me. So just wanted to call that call out because not happy about that come at me, bro tweet. And that was kind of the motivation for the team. That was on the team locker room for the 2 weeks. So I don't know whether to thank him or to bash him for it.
I mean, you dominated. You probably won that. I mean, first of all, you won in the round of 16 with that crazy Rublev Bublik match. I'm curious to see if you outscored Josh's entire team in that one round, which is like possible. I think
you have to ask Josh, like, what happened with that team? We need to have a little post-match interview about what happened with that team.
When I see Nick withdraw on a Sunday and then Big John got beat by Munar, it was curtains from there on out. I think I stopped following my actual team after the first round. I was like, it's gone. There's no way I've got any chance here. I'm coming last.
I think you lost when Kyrgios withdrew.
Yeah. But I think you get Big John, 2 rounds out of Big John. Maybe there's a glimmer of hope, but when you're getting beat by Munar on grass, it's over.
I mean, it could be over for Big John, right? Like, I mean, that's a bad loss, man. Like, he had a nice run in Dallas, but I think he's out of the top 100 now. I think.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this should be it. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if I don't think he's announced anything yet, but man, if he can't put a really good run together in this US Open series, I don't see, like, is he really going to grind challengers at 37? Like, why?
The problem with Big John is he's so reliant on that serve, and when you don't play for such a long time, that serve rhythm sort of goes in matches, and there's just so many more breakpoint opportunities for the people he's playing, and that's what cost him against Munar in the end. When his serve's gone, what's Big John got to offer?
And I think the biggest thing with John is that, like, before he used to be able to maintain that serve velocity throughout a match. Now there's such a significant drop off after the first set. And that's what's telling me that he's done. Like, he won that first set against Munar, and then when the second set hit, he was just like, it just like fell off a cliff. Like, serve goes down 20 miles per hour and he has nothing else. It just becomes like, what do you do?
Yeah.
He's also got a family now, right? So hasn't he mentioned that he doesn't really enjoy the travel now because he's got a family?
He only plays the slams and only the US tournaments. That's why he's playing Newport, and he's obviously going to play Toronto and Cincy. But like, and then his ranking is going to drop even more because he made the quarters of Cincy last year.
Yeah, we watched that. We watched him play 65.
Yeah, we were there, right? So like, once he loses presumably in the first round or second round there, I mean, his ranking is probably going to be out of the top 150. And then it's like, it's...
Where'd you go from there?
Exactly. Besides wild cards.
Or if you want to grind the American challengers, but I can't see John wanting to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Not at that age.
Yeah. And not with the family, right? Like,
that's the big one.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, enough of the Aces. I'm tired of that. I had enough.
Yeah, I did not come on and sing Benny and the Soviets this time, so I should have gone with that too. Like,
yeah,
that's the other thing, Manny. I'm glad you didn't win is because your team name. We got to work on those team name skills, man.
You definitely had
the king and his highly rated minions is
You just dominated the entire Ace competition with the team name, the players. I mean, everything about it. It just like was all you. Like,
well, I'll get a dinner and $50 out of it, so I'm a happy man.
All right. Well, Josh, since we haven't really talked too much during the tournament, I just wanted, like, what are your main takeaways from these 2 weeks?
Yeah, so I sort of mentioned to you this off air, bit about the old generation, the Medvedevs, the Zverevs, the Tsitsipas, how I think the torch well and truly has been passed over, because Alcaraz, we always knew Alcaraz was bang there, but Sinner's performances, Rune's performances now that generation, I think, are quite clearer than that previous generation. That's one of the main takeaways. And the second takeaway, interesting to think what you guys think about this, is American tennis. I put Taylor Fritz and Korda obviously in my aces draft. And
Yeah.
obviously Tiafoe got knocked out so early. And I was expecting three of them to go quite deep in this tournament. And Chrissy Eubanks ended up going the furthest out of everyone. So it'd be interesting to think what your guys' take on that on American tennis right now, the top players.
Okay, going to the first thing with the Tsitsipas Medvedev generation. So I think Medvedev on a hard court belongs in the top 3. I think he's number 3 of those two guys, Djokovic, Alcaraz.
On a fast hard court, I would say. Like, he's a lot better on the faster
Okay.
hard, or a neutral fast hard court. Like, when he goes to Indian Wells, he's not nearly as good, in my opinion. But go ahead, Manny.
I mean, the problem is, like, with Medvedev, like, Alcaraz is 100% the worst possible matchup for him in every single way. I mean, he just got manhandled in that semifinal. It wasn't even close. It's just like the power, the drop shot, the finesse, the ability to come forward, like everything about it. And like Medvedev, at least with Djokovic, like Djokovic will kind of give him some room to breathe and like, stay in rallies, but like Alcaraz just doesn't. So I think Medvedev is a clear 3. But as far as the other guys, I think Rune is a little bit further away from that pack. And Sinner, I think, is quite far away from Rune as well. Like I would put Sinner more in that Tsitsipas category, the Tsitsipas Rublev category. Yeah. I think Rublev is actually trending up. So I would have to go with like Alcaraz, Djokovic, 1A, 1B, Medvedev number 2, but only on fast hard. If you put him on other surfaces, he's lower. Then Holger Rune, then Sinner, then Tsitsipas. So I kind of go with those tiers.
Where's Rublev in there, Manny, for you? Because Rublev's shown a lot.
Rublev is slightly above Sinner right now, in my eyes.
Interesting.
So what about you, Brad? I'm curious to see what you have to say.
So I guess taking the two questions separately, on the generation, I just think like Alcaraz is so far ahead of everyone except Djokovic now. And I think it's like I don't even like, I mean, when we talk about who the third best player, I mean, it's crazy because we talk about like it's different every 2 months, but like, man, like who is the third best player right now? Like Rublev has a legitimate case, I think. And I would never have said that. Medvedev I think it's Medvedev on a fast hard, but just like overall across all surfaces, I don't know. Like I'm not like it's because I'm not really buying into Holger Rune yet either. Like there's still a lot of question marks there, I think. Especially around fitness and then like mental. He's pretty mentally tough, but he also goes into like these weird.
That's why I'm one concern with Holger. And I'm a massive fan, but it's fitness wise, and that's the one thing you need to go deep in slams. He done quite good at Wimbledon to get to the quarterfinals. Fitness wise, he looked okay as well. He sort of faltered in the third set against Alcaraz, but for me, he has all the tools. But the one thing, a bit like Sinner, is the physical side of the game.
I also think tactics. Like I've seen Holger Rune, like I think if you watch his match versus de Minaur at Acapulco, like not only did Holger Rune lose that match, he lost that match because he physically got tired. That was number 1 reason. The number 2 reason was bad tactics. Like he was just blasting balls all over the place. When against de Minaur, like he didn't need to. What he needed to do was like be patient and like de Minaur wasn't ripping any winners. Like just play a 6-7 ball rally, and then when you get your 1 to hit it. But Rune was just blasting balls out for no reason. So I'm worried about those 2 things for Rune. So you were going to say something, Manny?
Yeah, who do you put in front, Rune or Sinner? Because I think they're pretty close. But I slightly give Rune the advantage. I think he's a little bit further ahead in terms of upside and just all around game. And I think he's improving at a faster rate than Sinner, which is why probably the main reason why I give Rune the slight edge.
Correct me if I'm wrong. There is a two-year age gap. Sinner's 22 and Rune is 20. I think if we have this conversation a year's time, I have no doubt. I think that Rune will be further ahead convincingly. Well, not
I mean,
convincingly, but he will be further ahead than Sinner, I think. At the rate
I,
he's improving.
I personally don't weigh age that much. I think age is
Okay.
an overrated way to judge these talents. I think progression and how quickly they're improving is the best way to do it. Because like Zverev, when in 2017, everyone's like, oh, this guy's going to win multiple majors. He's winning masters and this and that, right? Now he's like 26 and he's barely done anything, right? Tsitsipas is on that same trajectory, but those guys are not really improving their game, you know?
Yeah.
Alcaraz's rise is just like this, but it's just due to constant improvement. But like, I don't even weigh the age. If he was doing this at 27, 28, I'd be just as impressed.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean,
It's a difficult question because there's
it
so many
is.
factors. Other than Alcaraz and Djokovic, there's so many positives and negatives for each player in and around that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I go ahead, Manny.
one more thing. So the big three, they really destroyed like three different generations of tennis players, right? So Federer came up just during that, like the Hewitt Roddick, right? He kind of ended that generation, right? And then the Tsonga Berdych generation, Ferrer, that they destroyed that one, right? Then who else did they destroy? I think they destroyed another one.
Like the Nishikori generation, right? Like,
right. Yeah. They destroyed that one, and now Djokovic is on the verge of destroying another one with the Tsitsipas Medvedev generation.
oh, I guess I would say like I actually kind of like I thought the Berdych, Ferrer, Tsonga generation actually did pretty well though as a second tier. Like they would kind of dominate everybody below them. Like I thought they were the strongest of those second tiers. They just couldn't break through those top three guys in their primes. But like it, like tennis. I mean, in my mind, that was like in this like past 20 years has been amazing for men's tennis. Like that early 2010s when you had not only the big three all in their primes, but also Murray, Wawrinka, Berdych, Ferrer, Tsonga, Nishikori, like that was amazing. Like you'd have round of 16s that would just be incredible because like that second tier was so good. It would actually give that top tier like they'd give them decent fights. Like they wouldn't ever win, but they would give them decent fights in a way that I feel like the other generations didn't.
Got to add Chilich in there too.
Yeah, Del Potro.
Del Potro, yeah, and they crashed the party too at some point, right? Especially
Occasionally one would crash the party, and they would get wins. Like they would make finals and stuff. Like Berdych made a final, Ferrer made a final, Tsonga made a final, right? So like they would hop in and like do things occasionally.
But like Tsitsipas is nowhere near to crash the party, right?
Well, he's made a couple finals too.
Dominic Thiem's won, maybe, but if his injuries didn't sort of plagiarize.
That 2020 US Open, I mean, I'm glad Thiem got one. You know, he's a super nice guy and everything. Like, and he was knocking on the door at that point, but like
on clay.
Is that really a Grand Slam? I mean, it's it's just good he got one. Like he paid his dues and he deserved one, right? Like I'm taking it away from him. But yeah. And then American tennis, Brad, you go first here. Like, what do you make of that takeaway from?
I think my take is like, I don't know. America has a lot of like really. So first of all, I think America's the leader in like guys in the top 100. Like American tennis in terms of depth is really good. There's like 19. Yeah. Well, there's like 8. It's well in the teens. The number of Americans in the top 100. I mean, when you include guys like Cressy, McDonald. You know, I mean, I can go on. There's well over 10 of them in that top 100. You know, there's a lot of like good, decent players. But like many and I've talked about in the past, like a lot of the American tennis players feel more like tennis players and less like athletes. Like a lot of them are like when I watch Fritz play, I characterize him as very like stiff.
Yeah.
Like good strokes, good serve, but like they move decent side to side, but don't move that well forward. Like I don't know. They're all like a lot of them. Like Brooksby is kind of the outlier of this group, but like they all kind of have like really nice tennis games. But they don't seem to be like as athletic as these guys in the top 5. Like part of the reason why Djokovic beats guys is just because he's like a terrific athlete, right? Alcaraz is the same way. Like he just dominates. Like you watch him move, and like the fluidity of his movement is just like incredible. And like if you watch the American guys, like they're nowhere near that. Even Quarter's a little smoother, but like in a little more fluid. But then he's got issues. He's got pretty big issues too. So like, I mean, that's
best
my
athlete
overall
of the
take.
American guys
They're just
is
not athletic
Tiafoe.
enough. What?
The best athlete of the American guys is Tiafoe.
Yeah.
For sure. It's just he has some technical flaws. Like I think that forehand kind of goes awry sometimes. I think mentally he clowns a little
I'm gonna
bit.
say it's mental. I think with Tiafoe.
Yeah, it's
I also
just
don't know what happened in that third round, but he did not look good against. I mean, he just went. He like didn't even like. It looked like he was hurt or something too, or just gassed because like he didn't even like.
he
He
threw in
didn't
the
show up
dud
that
that
match.
you would expect that Dimitrov would throw in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it was just very, very disappointing. It's just, you know, like American tennis is fine. It's just who is gonna knock on that door of cracking.
Yeah. I feel like I've been waiting for like 2 years. There's so many players who like, oh, could he? And it's just a no every time. You're sort of waiting for someone to make a really, really good run. I thought Tiafoe could have gone
The
really deep
problem is
this
they're
year.
further away now than they were. Like they keep
Yeah.
going further away, you
Yeah.
know. Whereas before you thought that they were knocking on the door. Like now they're nowhere near the door. So like can we you know, I feel like we should expect round of 16 quarterfinals from these guys, right? In slams, but
I actually do think it's better than like 3 to 4 years ago when it was like Isner and nobody else. Like now you do have Paul, Korda, Fritz. Like these guys are Tiafoe. Like these guys are all like definitely top 30 players, like borderline top 20 guys. So I actually think it's in a better state. There's just not like a guy who's like a number one guy.
Yeah.
all right, just a quick like game, I guess let's play. Over under on American Masters 1000 winners in the next 2 years. And what number would you put that at?
Unique winners or total titles or total titles?
Total of Americans. If we just put like the
total titles.
Yeah, total Masters 1000 titles in the next 2 years. Or like say 24 and 25.
So through so next 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Well,
no, we'll discount 23 because there's only like 3 more, right? Okay. So 24 and 25 between Tiafoe, Fritz, Korda, Paul, those guys. Over under on Masters 1000 wins.
Michael Zhang?
Not yet. Not yet. Josh, you go first.
So you want a line like 2.5, 1.5?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Did you go 0.5?
Ooh,
honestly,
spicy.
But you got Alcaraz, Djokovic still there. So, honestly, I can't see who's going to win one.
That's why I'm asking you Masters 1000s because the Djokovic doesn't really prioritize those events. He's all about slams.
I'd go 0.5, honestly. 0.5.
You go 0.5, and would you make that a juice line? Like, what would you make 0.5 at? Like the over and the under at?
I'd probably put it at, I think it's minus 200. Your guys 1 to 2 over here.
Okay.
That would I go. That's why I'd go on that.
So you go over 0.5 at minus 200.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. I would definitely, if it was a 1.5 line, I'd hit the under at even money.
Yeah,
like
I can't.
At minus 110, I'd hit the under for sure.
You obviously say Djokovic doesn't play the Masters, but I just look at guys like Alcaraz, Sinner, who's only just going to get better, and I can't see who's going to win one from the Americans. Maybe Sebi Korda, if he sorts himself out a little bit, but I can't see who's going to win one. Taylor Fritz looks like he's going backwards compared to the competition. I can't see he's going to win one.
Yeah.
Unless you get a young guy who just bursts on the scene.
If under half a Masters 1000 was minus 150, would you take it?
Maybe.
Is that where you stay away?
Yeah. I just can't see he's going to win one, to be honest.
Okay. All right, Brad, your thoughts.
I'm gonna go more optimistic here. I'm gonna go with a flat line of 2. And I think that So I guess there's a few points here, right? So one, there's three in the US, right? There's three, like America has three in the country every year: Indian Wells, Miami, and Cincinnati. So there's three home opportunities each year. There's a fourth one in Canada, which is, a couple miles drive from certain parts of the United States. So that's my first reasoning. My second is like variance. It's just like, variance. And then my third is what I went back to before. Like, while there isn't like a top guy, there are a bunch of guys who are like in the top 20, right? Like Fritz has won one, right? He won Indian Wells. Isner won one a few years ago. Like, Isner won Miami, am I right?
Miami. Yep.
Yeah, he won Miami a couple years back. So like, and we've seen guys break through somewhat randomly in the Masters. Like Coric won Cincinnati, right? A couple years last year he won Cincinnati. So like,
yeah,
and you're talking about three in the US, one in Canada, and then what? 6 others? There's 10 Masters total, I think.
Something.
I'm close, plus or minus a point or two.
Yeah, right.
So like, I'll go with 2 just because I think there's enough cracks, enough at bats at the plate that I think somebody will get through. Like, I can't tell you who, but like, like Tiafoe's a good enough athlete. Like Tiafoe likes to play at home. Like he could steal one. I think there's like enough guys get enough at bats at the plate. Like Tiafoe made what, semis of Indian Wells or semis of Miami? Which one was it? They lost to Medvedev.
That was Miami.
So like, I don't know. I think there's enough reason to believe. Like I said, I don't think 2 is a massive number there. It's 2 out of what, like 18 or 20 or however many. So like, because there's 2. Is Shanghai still a Masters? It is, right? So there's Shanghai, Percy. There's the Canada and the U.S. Open, or Canada and Cincinnati. There's Monte Carlo,
Rome,
Madrid, Indian Wells, Miami. So there's 9.
Yeah.
Maybe it would probably be slightly juiced. I'd probably go 2 with the over being more juiced than the under, but I'd go with the flat line.
Interesting. So you're more optimistic than we are.
Actually, no, I guess the under would be a little more juiced than the over. So I think it's like 1.8 or something. 1.9, something like that.
Okay.
So I'm slightly more optimistic than you, Manny, and much more optimistic than John.
But throughout the podcast, I think what I'm gonna try to throw out some more like hypothetical lines. I think that was a fun question. That was a great question. So I think that it's kind of a fun way to spice up the conversation, right? Because we're a betting podcast, so it's like if we put some hypotheticals out there. I mean, obviously, what do you think the line should be at an American to win a slam in the next 2 years, or to win a slam in the next 2 years? 0.5 is the line. So I think under should be minus 300 in that area, 350. That's where I'm leaning.
Maybe more. I might even go higher, man. So I'm actually less optimistic at a slam because, like, you only get 8 cracks now, right? And like we talked about before, like Djokovic doesn't always prioritize the slams, he doesn't always prioritize the Masters. He will prioritize the slams. He looks like he's got at least another year in him, man. Given that he's won the first 2 this year and made a final.
Does Father Time hit him at some point, though?
I mean,
in the next 2 years, I don't know. I mean, like usually they're, I don't know. I mean, it will at some point, but will it be the next 2 years? We've said this forever that it would hit him.
I mean, realistically as well, looking at that question, you got 6 slams because no American is winning the French Open.
Good point. It's a good point.
Yeah. And grass can be hard for the Americans too, because there's not a whole lot of so it's, yeah.
You'd go higher. You'd put what, minus 500?
I think so. Yeah. Something big, like something almost unbettable. I just don't see and slams tend to be won by like top players, right? Like you see guys break through at Masters. It's really hard to break through at a slam. Because the other thing that's I think underrated about a slam is that it's best of 5. So there's 2 things with that, right? There's just less room for variance, right? In a best of 3 tennis match, there's just more room for variance. You come out, you play a hot set, the guy plays a bad set, and you win the match, right? So that there's that. And then the second piece of it is like, if you're constantly playing close matches at a slam, you're screwed. You'll run out of gas. Whereas like in a best of 3, especially some of these 2-week slams now with all the off days built in, you just need to survive in advance.
Yeah, it's true. And I think starting in 2025, Masters, the Cincinnati and Montreal or Canada, they're going to be 2-week events as well. So it's like, do you think the 2-week events add variance or lower variance?
I say both. Is that a legitimate answer?
Yes.
Yeah.
They add variance in the sense that like, they add variance in the sense that like there's going to be like, if you play a bunch of matches, close matches in a row, it's not going to hurt you as much. But it decreases variance in that like I think you're going to have less injuries and less guys like have to pull out and stuff like that. So I think it does both. So I think it probably offsets and doesn't really matter in the end.
Okay. All right. So
what are your thoughts on all this, Josh? We kind of left you out of the conversation for like 5 minutes there.
Yeah. I think it's a difficult question that. I sort of echo what you said on that, Brad, where if you're getting, it depends on fitness. There's so many different factors in that question. You can sort of take the Indian Wells Miami look on that. So they're going to be back to back, or is it going to be 2-week actual Masters events? Is it in 2025?
they're all going to be like
2-week event.
2-week events like Indian Wells and Miami, except Monte Carlo and Bercy, I believe.
Yeah.
And Shanghai, right?
Shanghai is 2 weeks this year.
Oh, it is? Oh, wow.
2 weeks, yeah. I think that adds less variety, I think, because you just get more time to rest and recover. It's just so much, the top players, it's so much harder to beat them. Then you get top guys who are having close matches, you can catch them where maybe there's an injury or so, but injuries, I think, become less likely if it's over a longer period of time. I think it makes the actual events worse as well, to be honest with you.
Terrible. It's
so
horrible,
much worse.
Manny, I completely agree with that. We hate the 2-week Masters format. I guess it's there might be an argument it's somehow better for like casual tennis fans, but I think if you're like a more advanced tennis fan, I think it's bad for you.
Not really, because like the casual tennis fans, as they get into it, right, as they start getting acclimated with the sport, they start looking for matches. Like there are days where there are only 2 matches in a day, and it's like, what now? Now I got to go.
Oh no, I think that's a good thing. Like, Manny, if you're a casual fan, you don't want to watch more than 2 hours of sport. Like casual fan means you're tuning in for like a half hour to an hour.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think if you're growing the sport, you want more matches. You want volume as well, so you can pick and choose what you want to see.
I think as long as you get them on prime time, I think you're good. The problem that tennis is always going to have with this is that when you have a global sport or you have a global tour, it's really hard to like. It's really because like the time zones just never make sense. Like we whine about it all the time. How like there's like only like the next 2 months are great because like the matches are a good time for us to watch. The rest of the year, it's like 5 o'clock at midnight in the morning till noon. Like, you know, the luckily the Wimbledon finals a little more acceptable. It's like Sunday morning at 9 a.m. But like, who's getting up at like 4 o'clock in the morning to watch the Australian Open final? Yeah, me too. But like, so Josh, yeah, for us, the Australian Open final was at 3:30 a.m. start time.
Yeah, that's horrible.
So like I mean, I get up for it. I've actually had I've had some of my tennis buddies have we done like all night parties in the past where we have like a party all night and then we stay up and watch the match. Like, but yeah.
All right, so
let's 3 setter because everybody wants to go back to bed. But
so let's transition to the semifinals. So Josh, I want to hear. Did you have any bets for those 2 matches?
No, I didn't actually. I sort of just enjoyed them. Similar to what I'm going to do with the final tomorrow. It's not really much, but it was a little bit of a case of sort of knew what the result was going to be. I think looking at both the matches, Djokovic and Alcaraz sort of so clear from both of them. So I just enjoyed both of them. They're quite interesting to watch them both. Quite very good games in the end, really. Quite routine wins. So sort of
I think the Sinner match was really interesting in that it felt like a routine win, but like the gap between them was very small. It's just that anytime it was an important point, Sinner made an unforced error.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but like if you look statistically they were dead even.
Well, in a way, I mean, so Sinner was 0 of 6 on break point, right? I thought he played the break points absolutely horrendously, absolutely pathetically. I mean, all of them. I thought I think 4 of them he just ended with forehand misses, I believe. Right? Maybe 2 of them Djokovic played really good points. I think he played good defensive points on some of them, but like Sinner just went for broke on every break point. And like that's the exact opposite of what you want to do against Djokovic. Like Djokovic is going to dig in and not miss. Right? So I don't know if is it physicality which plays a part there. It's like he doesn't think he can last a 30-ball rally with Djokovic. Like, what was Sinner's mindset on those break points? I don't really understand.
Well, that's sort of the
Yeah,
problem with this game in general, isn't it? That variety, which is why he arguably, well, he's not on that Alcaraz level because Alcaraz, he's got that forehand, but he's just got so much variety. He's got the drop shot. Or Sinner, it's just, if I can't hit through you, I'm going to hit the ball even harder. And usually it just ends up in errors, as we saw against Djokovic.
Yeah, you're right.
it was hilarious because the announcers were saying after the match, the announcers in America here on ESPN were saying they were disappointed by Sinner not using more drop shots and using more net approaches and more variety. I was just laughing because I was like, have these guys watched a Yannick Sinner match ever? Like,
I know. But just the most like interesting stat in this match was the return points. Right? Like I know
it was dead even.
Dead even. Actually, Sinner had more return points won, and he actually had more return points in general in the match, which shows that he was getting into Djokovic service games more consistently than Novak was. Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Interesting. That is interesting going into the final with the Alcaraz. Alcaraz will be looking at that. And there is potential there to get stuck into that Djokovic serve.
well, if Djokovic does the same stuff he did against Sinner and is getting into deuce games and stuff like that, that's not going to work against Alcaraz.
Yeah.
That's not going to work. So Djokovic actually has to raise his level.
Yeah, I agree on that.
I think. Personally, I'm not looking too much into the Alcaraz Medvedev match because I just think the matchup is so good for Alcaraz and so bad for Medvedev that like I don't have too many takeaways from that. Do you think that, Brad?
So I mean, I have 2 things. So A, like Manny and I made bank on that match because we were saying that's coming in. B, I want to like. There's a lot of people, tennis analysts in general, that said that Medvedev wasn't strategically adjusting. I think that's hogwash. Like, I don't think there's any strategy he can play that's going to win him the match. Like, he actually did try to move forward for like one service game, and Alcaraz just hit a bunch of body serves, and Medvedev just missed the returns. Like, unless Alcaraz like falls, and Alcaraz kind of gave him a chance in the 3rd set. He made a couple of dumb errors, kind of fell asleep a little bit on a couple of shots, like the between the legs behind the back volley. I don't know what that was, but like, but I think that like there's nothing Medvedev can do against, like, it's just such a bad matchup. Like, because the problem is like Alcaraz Alcaraz has a full set of tools, and Medvedev really doesn't. And I think that's what that match, like, we already knew this. There was no new takeaway here, but like that was my biggest thing is just that like the idea that Medvedev needed to strategically adjust. It's not a matter of strategic adjusting. Like, if he wants to beat Alcaraz, he needs to develop more tools and develop more unique tools and become like more and get like quicker so he can react faster, so he can play further up, in the court. But like, it's not a matter of strategy. It's just like he just doesn't have the tools to beat Alcaraz.
Yeah. It was quite surprising in itself that he made the semi-finals. So I don't think anyone can even expect that much of him to even play Alcaraz that close. He's not comfortable on grass courts, as we've seen throughout the short grass court season.
Yeah. But I think that's the takeaway I have on Medvedev too, is like, I'm actually really impressed. I think he's shown a lot of maturity this year in, like, maybe he's not embracing the non-fast hard court surfaces, but he's at least accepting them and like trying to do well. Like, he won Rome, right? Or he made the final Rome?
He won Rome.
Yeah, won Rome.
Yeah, he won Rome, which is like pretty good. I know he went out first round of the French, but like, I don't know, like, that's not a bad clay season for him.
No, it's not. I think
he made the semifinals. Like, he's playing. like without really like he's not his best in these surfaces, but he's still playing like, look, if you look at the results, he's playing borderline top 5. It's not pretty. He's whiny. He complains, but like he's winning enough matches to play like top 5 level tennis. And I think that's showing I'm actually impressed by it. And I think it's showing a level of maturity because I think Medvedev a year or two ago, like just goes out in the second or third round and says, screw it. I don't like this service and it's not my thing. So I'm not doing it. Now he's like making a real attempt. It's never going to be good for him, but he's making an attempt.
And if you go back to say Indian Wells and Miami, like those wins that he had there weren't pretty either. Like I remember there were times where it's like, is he really playing that well? But he just ended up on the winning side every time. And I mean, he's physically, there's no concern with Medvedev, and mentally he's quite strong. I think I probably agree with you in that he's not really capable of adjusting. I think he's not really also willing to. Like, I think he's quite stubborn, and the stubbornness has gotten him to this point. But I don't know. He needs.
I think it's almost intelligent though. Like, like you can adjust, but if it makes you worse, how valuable is it to adjust? Good right? Point. Like that's the problem. Like you can we act as if these guys have like full kits. It's the same thing with Fritz, right, Manny? Like you complain all the time that Fritz isn't adjusting, has no plan B. Like it's just that like he's got a limited tool set.
Yeah, it's not
like,
at that level.
It's not that he's not smart enough. It's just like if you've only got a hammer, like what do you do when you see a nail with like the little what do you see when you see a Phillips screw? Like what do? You just have a hammer, like.
Yeah. It is tricky for him. It's just like it's frustrating because you see no pathway for him to win, right?
Against Alcaraz, there's no path. Maybe at his house. Maybe if they play the match at his house, he could put like a special court to give him a chance, but otherwise, no.
PlayStation.
Yeah. Murray actually like lost a girlfriend over that. He was like so obsessed with beating the top guys, he would like play them on PlayStation to like try to figure out what to do. And his girlfriend is going and stuff. I was like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you wasting time on this?"
Well, you made this comparison with Alcaraz and Dimitrov. Like, you don't care if it's chess, you don't care if it's like rock paper scissors. Like, he's not beating Dimitrov's not beating Alcaraz. I think Medvedev, if they played on the PlayStation, he might get him, right?
Yeah.
This isn't a mental issue. This isn't like a mental issue or a competitiveness issue. This is just a tennis game issue.
Yeah, he just doesn't have the skills, does he, on that particular surface?
But what surface does he have the skills on to beat Alcaraz?
Yeah.
It has to be a really, really fast hard court, but does that really matter even? Maybe not.
Maybe if they changed the rules and didn't let Alcaraz hit drop shots, if they said he has to hit every ball past the service line, or else it's out.
Yeah. If you stand that far back and you come up against someone with a drop shot that good, it's just a recipe for disaster.
And the problem is he has to stand back there. Like it's for him, it's almost like he can move up, but then he's a way worse player. It sacrifices a lot for him. And then Alcaraz, if he moves up, then Alcaraz just beats him using normal tennis, which he's way better at if Medvedev's not in his favorite position. So he's got a lot of really bad options. And like, I mean, he could win. Like if Alcaraz plays the way, if Medvedev would have served a little better, he actually could have won the third set because Alcaraz kind of fell asleep. But he would need Alcaraz to really play a bad match. Like I think Medvedev will beat Alcaraz at some point in his career because they'll play enough times that like Alcaraz will just play a bad match. Either he just plays bad or he's hurt or something. Yeah. And Medvedev will get a win or two. But like, it's not going to be a pretty record for him. He'll be like 1-8 or like 1-9 or something.
Before Indian Wells, we were so excited and like how this match would look like because
it looks so terrible.
Never seen it, and it's just it's terrible. It's terrible. Like I thought this had the potential to be like a top 2 rivalry after Djokovic Alcaraz, right? Like, but it's just not. It's just
it's not.
So I want to just play a quick game of rapid fire with you. I'm going to name like other guys in the top 10 and I want to see who you guys think that guy would rather play, Djokovic or Alcaraz, who they have a better chance against. All right. So we're going to start with Holger Rune.
Djokovic.
Start with Brad. Would the judge play?
Djokovic.
Okay.
I'll go Alcaraz.
Okay. All right. Since you guys disagree, I want to hear what your thought process is.
Mine's pretty simple. I think they played twice, maybe more, but the last two times I can remember is obviously Paris Masters and Rome, and he's beaten both times. So simply that.
That's hard to argue with. You came with the fact. Like usually I try to come with facts and not conjecture. That's pretty good. Mine would be that like I do think the tactics are an issue for Holger Rune, and so Djokovic like in a slam match where Djokovic is like really on, I think that the tactical advantage is worse. Whereas like I don't think Holger Rune is that much worse than Alcaraz, like athletically. Like Rune's a pretty good athlete. He has quite a bit of variety. Like, I mean, Alcaraz is better. I don't think Rune matches up particularly well with either of them. But like, I think Rune is close to Alcaraz athletically, whereas like I think he's actually like better at this point physically than Djokovic, or very, very close to Djokovic physically. But the issue is tactics. But Josh, you bring up a good point. I mean, I don't know how much legs I have to stand on my argument.
Yeah, and in a slam, I'd probably lean Alcaraz just because of that like discipline and mental part of the game, but it's close with him. Tsitsipas. I mean, obviously he doesn't match up well against either guy, but like, who would he rather play at this point?
I'm gonna go Djokovic.
Like this one isn't even a question to me. Like, look, we've seen the last two times Tsitsipas played Alcaraz. Like we've seen that, and that wasn't even competitive.
Yeah, I know, but like, don't you think like Djokovic could do the same stuff against him, like playing in this state?
Well, no, because we saw the Australian Open final, and that was actually pretty competitive. Like that was pretty impressive. Like Tsitsipas, he never really felt like he had a chance to win the match, but that was pretty darn competitive. That was what, one break the whole match. Whereas like
I know we're
like
going
we've
back
seen
a
him play
little bit of
Alcaraz
time
twice,
as
and it's
well.
been. Sorry, go ahead, Josh.
I was going to say, I know we're going back a little bit of time. We did go 2 sets up against him in the French Open final, and that was a couple of years ago. But that's more than when you look at what happened against Alcaraz at the French Open. There's an absolute beatdown. Off that basis, you'd rather play Djokovic.
I think, and we saw Barcelona, same thing, absolute beatdown. Like,
yeah,
and that might be Tsitsipas's favorite surface, clay. It's where he's had probably the most success.
Might be. So I think this is totally psychological. So I think against Alcaraz, Tsitsipas is like, oh, I was the first one. I was the top player before Alcaraz even came on the scene. I should be winning these matches, and now I'm not. And I think it like plays with him mentally. Whereas with Djokovic, he was always the underdog, always, like he's playing the greatest of all time. So the pressure is kind of off of him. Right. So I think Tsitsipas is terrible against either of them, but I just think like psychologically, he would prefer playing Djokovic.
Almost feel like there's no pressure playing Djokovic, whereas with Alcaraz, he always expects himself to do a little bit.
Well, he's so far behind now, but like 2 years ago, he was the number 3 seed at the US Open playing an unseeded guy in Alcaraz, right? And it's just like, it must be just so frustrating for him. So I think he's just deflated playing Alcaraz at this point, like mentally. Like,
it's also, it hasn't like the issue I think is like Alcaraz is Alcaraz can beat him to the punch. And Alcaraz is one of the few guys on the tour, we talked about this before, Manny, who can beat Tsitsipas to the punch. And like Tsitsipas doesn't really defend well, right? He's an attack player. Yeah. So if you beat him to the punch, he's in really big trouble. And like Alcaraz has no problem beating him to the punch, whereas like Djokovic is more a chameleon, so he ends up like kind of he'll still beat Alcaraz, or he'll still beat Tsitsipas, but it's he like Tsitsipas gets to play a little bit more of his game.
It's just a wear down factor.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, I think it's just he's like Djokovic is just a little bit better in key moments, right? We saw in the Aussie Open final. Like,
I know. A couple more. Medvedev, I think it's pretty easy. This one is like no debate, right?
Yeah, this one's not a debate. It's he'd rather play Djokovic.
Yeah, Djokovic
on any
definitely.
surface, too, which is just crazy. Sinner.
Alcaraz. I think he'd rather play Alcaraz, personally.
I agree. Him and Alcaraz are actually like because Alcaraz isn't like we talked about before. Like Alcaraz's tactics is probably the biggest area he still has to improve. Like tactics and then like discipline. Like not so much discipline, but like focus. Probably is a better word than discipline. So like Sinner, yeah, I mean, I think like Sinner can take advantage when Alcaraz isn't as focused, and Sinner can. I mean, when Sinner and Alcaraz hit, it's fun to watch.
Yeah,
Those guys can really blast the ball.
probably the best
And-
matchup on tour right now.
So much fun to watch.
Yeah,
guys. Yeah.
because they both just and like Alcaraz, like again, because his tactics are like he's got all the tools, but he doesn't always use them at the best time. Like Alcaraz will kind of like stand there and swing away. Like he's a boxing hero, kind of stand there and swing away with Sinner, which I don't know if that's the best way to beat him, but it sure makes for an exciting fight. Whereas like Djokovic is just a little better than Sinner, and then he just plays the big points a little bit better. Like he's not like overly that much more impressive, but he's just like a little better tactic. Like yeah. Plus, I think Sinner and Alcaraz have to love that, man. Like those matches are just so fun. I mean, that just has to be fun to play at that level because those guys like raise each other up to such a high level. Like,
yeah. And then the last one, I think, this is an interesting one. Rublev.
I'm gonna go Alcaraz.
I don't think Rublev and Alcaraz have ever played.
Yeah, I can't remember them two playing.
I can't remember it either. I'm gonna go Djokovic. I think that I think Alcaraz and Rublev, if they play, Alcaraz just out athletes Rublev. Because Rublev's also, I mean, like we said, like Rublev's gotten a lot better defensively, but he's nowhere near Alcaraz's level of movement yet. He doesn't really have like the variety. I also wonder like if Alcaraz mixes in the drop shot against him, how Rublev deals with that. Like, so yeah, I'll go with he'd rather play Djokovic, but it's hard to say because we've never seen Alcaraz and Rublev play. Maybe Rublev will do great.
Rublev is way better moving side to side than up and down.
But Alcaraz might make him move up and down, right? Like
Yeah,
depends how much
drop shots.
or it depends or will Alcaraz do what he does against Sinner and just stand there and swing away for funsies. Like
Yeah,
maybe.
it's interesting that how we think. Well, I think most people would rather play Djokovic and Alcaraz. Just reflecting on that.
It's funny.
quite
I mean, this
interesting.
is why I wanted to do this exercise because it's just like it's kind of alarming how we say different guys based on other guys' skill set, right?
I think I would frame it a little differently. Like Alcaraz is a good matchup for some players, like Sinner, like right, like they have a really good matchup. But he's a really bad matchup for other players like Medvedev and Tsitsipas. Whereas like Djokovic is kind of like a pretty like Djokovic is like betting against the house at the casino, right? Like everybody's gonna win like 45% of the time, which means you lose, but like everybody will like it's like it doesn't feel that bad. Whereas like for some of these guys, they go up against Alcaraz and like they just get like annihilated. But so I think it's like it's sort of the difference in styles, right? Like Alcaraz is more like the athlete, he's more like the Mike Tyson in a boxing sense, and like maybe Djokovic is more like the Floyd Mayweather. Whereas like if you're a boxer, like you probably don't want to box Tyson because he's just gonna like dominate you, and you might not have your head coming out of the match. Whereas like if you're a boxer, like you'll go fight Floyd, like you'll make some money. You're probably gonna lose, but you'll go fight Floyd. You're not gonna get hurt too bad. You'll lose, but like the score's gonna look ugly. But
it's
like
a good analogy. It's actually good.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. All right, so I think that's a good transition to the final, right? We should talk about the lines here.
Yeah, we can bring up the lines.
All
So
right.
it's Floyd Mayweather versus Mike Tyson.
I think these guys are a little bit more classy. Just a little bit more, I'm not going to say civilized. I'm just going to say just it's going to be a little less trash talking per se. So Alcaraz is a 3.5 game underdog. He's plus 165 on the money line. Over under is 41. Djokovic is minus 195 on the money line. So Brad, I think you may have been tracking these lines a little bit closer than I have. What has the line movement been like?
I mean, it was 3, and I think it was like 155 and 185 when it came out, when it got released. Bovada originally released it at 170 and 210. So it hasn't moved much, 3 to 3.5, and going from 170, 210 down to 155, 185, coming back a little down to 165, 195. Not a lot, 20, 25 cents. Like for me, like this line is so well set, it hasn't really hurt or helped me. The over-under has moved actually too. The over-under when it came out, I think was 39.5. Now it's all up to 41, which is a pretty high total for these guys, but I don't know that it's wrong. It's just pretty high.
Yeah.
Um,
That is a high line, I think.
41 is high.
Yeah.
It's well set though. Like if it goes 4 sets, I find that hard to like not. I think it's gonna be around that amount.
I just think there's quite a lot of breakpoint opportunities in this match when I look at it. That's why I probably think that's quite high.
So wow, look at this. So break props here. Total breaks of serve over 5.5, but it's juiced at -165. Total breaks of serve in the first set over 1.5 at +105. That's appetizing to me. Total breaks of serve, Alcaraz over 2.5 is -120. Under 2.5 is -110. Djokovic total breaks of serve over 3.5 is -115. Under 3.5 is -115. So for me, I'll start. I mean, what catches my eye here is I actually don't mind the Djokovic under here. I don't think he's been returning that well, to be honest. Like, even against Sinner, he only manufactured 2 breaks. Against Hurkacz, he didn't break until the 4th set. I don't think he's really generating too many opportunities on return here. And if I played the Alcaraz side, I'd lean the over here. Like, Sinner should have gotten 2 or 3 breaks there and just played some dumb points and made some dumb mistakes and couldn't get the break.
So would you play? I mean, so then the question comes up: if you feel that way, Manny, wouldn't you play the Alcaraz plus the 3? Because if you think they're going to have basically the same number of breaks,
I'm gonna play the Alcaraz money line. Honestly,
okay. So you believe Alcaraz can actually win the match?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. And the reason for that is like tennis wise, like I'm not counting mental. I'm just counting just pure tennis, right? Stroke for stroke. I actually think Alcaraz has been a little bit better than Novak in this tournament. I think their draws have been relatively equal in terms. I think both have actually had pretty tough draws, considering like they were in probably the toughest quarters in their half. Djokovic beating Hubie, Rublev, and Sinner, whereas like Alcaraz beating Holger Rune, Yari, who was actually a tough match, Berrettini. I mean, like those are pretty tough. Medvedev. And I think Alcaraz has actually gotten better as the tournament has gone on. Whereas Djokovic has struggled a little bit, especially with Hubie and Sinner. Like, I think that Sinner match was much closer than the score indicated. So I think Djokovic is actually going to have to raise his level. And just like tennis-wise, I think Alcaraz is probably, if I would set a line without taking mental into consideration, probably Alcaraz -130, Djokovic +110 is where I would say. Now you put the mental tactics into consideration. Does that make the line what it is now? Does that go from Djokovic +110 to Djokovic -195? I don't think it's that much of a gap. I think it moves it maybe 50 to 60 cents to like -160, -150 in that area. But I think -195 is a little bit too far-fetched here, which I think is why there's value on that Alcaraz money line.
I think you've just taken the words completely out of my mouth. I completely agree with everything you just said right there, and it's exactly how I'm looking at this final as well. That Alcaraz money line I like as well, and
yeah,
I agree with you. If it's just about the mental side, Alcaraz probably is. It's either a pick 'em or you put an Alcaraz a slight favourite, but it's a Grand Slam against Djokovic in a final, which is why you have to put Alcaraz at this sort of price until he loses a sort of game like this. He's going to continue to be this sort of price.
And I think Djokovic should be a favorite because of that mental aspect.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. I'm not saying Alcaraz should be a favorite. I just think this is a little bit too short for Djokovic at nearly -200.
I'm in between you guys. I think like the line that it came out at, the 155, 185, if I was a bookie, is where I would set it. But moving 10 cents doesn't offset the juice. So I'm still going to stay away. But I'm like, I guess I'm somewhat in between you guys in the books. Like, but I mean, we're really talking like a half game. Like, we would all think Djokovic is a favorite between 150 and 200. So it's close. I think the thing you have to keep in mind is like, so I happen to know a guy who's an ATP journalist. I'm not going to disclose who, but he told me that Djokovic was like up with Goran for like hours the night before the Alcaraz match, like figuring out tactics to beat him. And like Djokovic can do this, right? Where he has enough versatility where like he can find the style to beat anyone. So that's so I think I'm kind of over. And like I thought he did that at the French, regardless of Alcaraz cramping. I think on a surface where he was definitely the underdog. And when like going into that match, he was a definite dog to I mean, he was a 4-game dog or something to Alcaraz, and I was all over Alcaraz 3-1, or minus a set and a half. And Djokovic, like regardless of the cramping, he found a way to basically, I think, like neutralize Alcaraz and like make it a very even match. So now on a surface that's better for Novak and worse for Alcaraz, I still think, even though Alcaraz has come a long way on the grass, he's not like all the way there yet. I think this line is pretty close to right. Again, I think Alcaraz could win the match, right? Like plus 165 tells you he's got like a 30-something% chance, high 30% chance of winning the match. So like I absolutely think Alcaraz can win this, and it'll be a fun final to watch. But if you had to make me pick somebody, I'd pick Djokovic. So I'm gonna lay off this money line. I might look at some props, but honestly, even the props, I'm not gonna be as heavily invested here as I was for other matches. There's a couple I like out there. So I don't hate the overlook here either of 41. I think like so Djokovic, to your point, man, he hasn't been returning as well. Mm-hmm. But he has been, that spot serve has been working. Like if you look at his serve points won, his return points won are down. His serve points won are up over 70%, like up in that Isner range that he's always been at. And that's how he's kind of won Wimbledon the past several years. But his return points aren't nearly at the elite level that they were in the past.
But he hasn't played
different things there.
But he hasn't played nearly as good of a returner as Alcaraz. And Alcaraz, we discussed it a little bit on our last pod. He's the number one player in first serve return points won on the tour.
Oh yeah, Alcaraz is a damn good returner. Like there's no doubt. Like it's not. I'm not saying that Djokovic is going to go out there and like ace him, but I think he can use the serve to set up enough points. And I think, and again, look, this is all like, can Novak Djokovic find a tactical strategy that works for him against Alcaraz? So I won't play it because the over 41 is high for a match where like both these guys are good enough defensively to generate break points. So I'm not going to play the over 41, but gun to my head of these lines, that's probably what I would play.
I'd be interested to know what you guys think. Obviously, I'd say that at the French, the pressure was more on Alcaraz. Who do you think the pressure is more on in this match?
I mean, Djokovic has the record already. Probably Djokovic because the calendar slam is in reach. I think with Alcaraz, it's more the pressure that he puts on himself more than anything. I think it's like he just expects so much, and like he knows that he kind of gave up an opportunity at the French, right? Like it's such a big match for him, biggest match of his life, right? Wimbledon final. So I think the pressure like externally is more on Djokovic, but I think his way better ability to compartmentalize it than Alcaraz does. And that's where that mental edge.
If this was a US Open final, I would 100% be behind Alcaraz. Right? If Djokovic was going for the calendar slam, I think it would be different. I do still think there's I mean, like for Djokovic, the slam count is all like the only number that is relevant for Djokovic anymore, right? Is the slam count and the Olympic gold. Like those are the only things that he has like the left to chase. So like this is another final to chase something. So there's probably more, but I don't think pressure is going to play a huge role. Like that played a huge role in the French match. I don't think it's going to play as big of a role here. I also think like Alcaraz, he should have learned something. And I heard he saw a psychiatrist. I heard he changed his practice regimen for this match. So like, I do think he's learned something from that experience. So I don't think you're going to see the cramping. I think Djokovic's gonna have to win this one without that. But
It's also
yeah.
grass and it's cooler.
Yeah.
So cramping shouldn't be a problem. I heard that the wind is actually a factor here. I saw something on Twitter. It's expected to be like 12 to 13 miles per hour.
Does the wind impact center court as much? Because it's pretty enclosed. Now I know they won't be roofed, but
yeah, not as much. But I actually think it favors Alcaraz, to be honest. A windy, some wind even, right?
ball striking, yes. Tactics, no. I think it's kind of like I think it's a huge.
It's a wash.
I think it helps, but I think it's a kind of offsets.
You are right. It is supposed to be windy tomorrow. Very windy, by the looks of it.
Yeah.
For the final.
If it was court one, I think it plays more of a factor. Center is pretty enclosed. So no rain, right? So it's gonna be outdoor, right?
Dry, just wind.
I mean, Djokovic really hasn't liked wind too much in his career. Like that's kind of been an area where he doesn't really like.
But this isn't like the U.S. Open final wind. Like this is wind, but it's not like
or that.
This isn't like the match against Murray 5 years ago where the wind was insane. Like this is like a more reasonable wind.
Yeah.
Right. That's true. Any props you like here that caught your eye, Brad?
Are you going on the medical timeout prop again, Manny? Manny hit the plus 200 for a medical timeout between Djokovic and Sinner.
Really?
Yeah, I did like that. I actually like it here too, to be honest.
Yeah, I like it too here as well.
I can't. I mean, I said like, do you guys have any idea on the stats of medical timeouts? Like, I have no idea. Like, I can't tell you if 220 is a good price or if 820 is a good price. Like, I have no idea. So, like, if I can't tell you if a price even makes sense, I can't bet something. Like, I have no clue.
I'm not gonna heavily bet this match. First of all, I'm at work, which stinks.
Yeah, me too.
Second of all, it's just these two guys. You just kind of want to enjoy it, you know. Like, I might play a money line here, but that's really it. It's not a heavily
one prop I was looking at was the 2+ tie breaks at 275. These guys are pretty close, man. Like I could see like sets where like each guy breaks once, and that's how you get to a tie break. I don't think the no break props are very good here. Like the no breaks in a set props are very good because I do think both these guys will generate some break points, to Josh's point before. But I could see some sets where each guy breaks once. I think you guys are like, both these guys are mentally tough enough to break back if one guy breaks first.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that.
I've seen a prop I like. Just on your screen there. Plus 1200.
Okay.
A player to smash a racket, Djokovic. I like that. Plus 1200.
The problem is that it's harder to break on the grass. If it was hard court, I think it would actually be a decent bet. But like on grass, it's like you really have to hit it hard.
He's been sort of on edge in his last couple of games at Wimbledon. He's been doing some funny stuff with the crowd. That price is big. Just a fun play, maybe.
That could be a fun play.
Yeah,
it's a fun play.
I'd rather probably just back Djokovic to smash racket if you can get a bigger prize because Alcaraz isn't going to smash his racket.
Yeah.
I mean, the only stuff I like on this match so far that I've been looking at is like the 1-1, 2-all, 3-all tiebreak stuff. Because I think this is going to be like, I think if Djokovic wins this match, I think he will. I think he's going to win it based on being like just slightly better on pressure points, just kind of like how he's done. You know how he did the Sinner match because Alcaraz won't fold like that, but like it'll be a similar idea. It'll just be a little closer, but Alcaraz will maybe win like, you know, not every pressure point, but like 60% of those pressure points, and that'll lead to victory.
Maybe it's
Djokovic will win the slight majority of the pressure points.
Alcaraz, if he's going to win this, he really has to win this just being a better tennis player. That's the issue, right? Whereas Djokovic can use those tactics, the aura, the mental aspect to kind of generate some points. And Alcaraz,
so that's why I was talking about the tie breaks before. And the one prop that I am hitting on the tie breaks is Djokovic to win and 2+ tie breaks in the match at 5-1.
I like that. I might play that as my hedge to my Alcaraz money line.
Maybe the double faults may be of interest if it's windy tomorrow.
It's a good
Double
point.
faults,
It's a good
maybe.
point. I like that.
What do
And
double
that's-
faults look like?
Uh,
I haven't even looked at the aces and double faults yet. That's the one thing I still have to look at.
6.5 total double faults. If the match goes long, I think that goes over.
I like the Djokovic over 2.5 double faults.
Or Djokovic didn't double fault against Sinner, did he?
He did not. But this is, Sinner is not
There's
that great of a returner.
I think there is so much more pressure on this game as well.
No.
And
There's more pressure on this match. I agree.
You know how it goes as well. If you're hitting 0 double faults in the semi, you're not hitting a double fault in the final. It's
true.
so rare you see that.
And this is just so much more pressure. Alcaraz is going to be kind of, creeping up, look to attack a second serve. There's so much more at stake.
Oh, you'd be surprised. I was looking at the stats on this. I was just curious. Like the verse double fault percentage stat, like the double faults is like the double faults against stat, like as a returner. Like it's basically if you go down a list, like completely random. If you go to like the leaderboard, it's like there's like there'll be some elite players mixed in, but it's like it doesn't like it looks like it doesn't really matter. Like more like it's like these guys aren't as smart as you think with that. Like they kind of just go smack a second serve and see what happens. Like, or not smack it, but they just go hit a second serve and see what happens.
You like the tie on double faults at plus 550? Is that good enough?
I actually kind of like that. That might be my play here. Like 2 random numbers between 0 and 5. Like,
yeah. I mean,
it's completely degenerate, but yeah, I might do that.
Totally degen. Totally. I actually don't mind the under 15.5 aces here at minus 115.
Yeah.
I would definitely lean under there over.
I mean, a lot of that
depends.
It depends, doesn't it, on how many. That just depends on the sets. If you're getting 5 sets overs, that just depends on the sets for me.
I think this is I think if you're gonna play this aces, it's a creative way of playing the over under. I agree with Josh here. Like,
okay. Yeah, you might be right.
But it is interesting. So the interesting part here is that Alcaraz, like the Alcaraz line on the aces is 7.5, and the Djokovic line is 8.5, and yet Alcaraz is plus 200 to hit most aces. That seems heavy to me. It seems like
really
I want that.
He doesn't ace that much. He uses the serve to gain court positioning more than Djokovic. Like Djokovic,
I'm just reading the lines though. Like so the book thinks that one guy's gonna hit 8 aces and the other guy's gonna like between 7.5 and 8. Like and the other guy, like the one guy. So the book thinks one guy's gonna hit what, like a little under like 7 aces, and the guy's gonna hit 8. And you're telling me that that's plus 200.
I mean, I know this is completely different, but I'd be interested to see in that French Open match who hit more aces. Just as a guide.
Because I think Alcaraz also, he also prevents more aces than Novak does, right? So you flip it around in that, and like Djokovic, we've talked about this before on this pod. Djokovic gets aced more than the average ATP player. Like it's one of the things he actually doesn't really worry about too much. Is he doesn't really worry too much about preventing aces. He plays more aggressively on the return. And he just makes sure that when he hits returns, he hits them good.
Yeah, he's the best. I guess
it's more like the Agassi mold, right? Like the old Agassi mold of returning, where it's like aggressive service return, as opposed to like the Medvedev mold of returning, where you're just getting everything back in play.
Right. And then Djokovic on second serve is like he'll eat you up alive on second serve points. Whereas I feel like Alcaraz will get more first serves back and make you rally.
He'll eat you up pretty good on second serves too. I think they were both 1 and 2 in return points, 1 on first and second.
You just
serve.
flip flop it, right?
Yeah, they just flip flop. Yeah. Anybody wanted to rate the first set time bet of 47.5 minutes?
That's a well set line.
Yeah.
I'd probably lean under there, considering
Yeah.
it's going to
But
be a.
I don't know, man, because like with the way if Djokovic is under pressure, he's going to take 30 seconds in between service points to bounce the ball.
That's a good point.
Like,
It's true. It's true.
but it feels like it's really heavily juiced. 115 each way. I'll probably avoid it. There's just too much juice in that each way.
And it's the right line. I don't mind 4 sets here at plus 170. I actually think whoever wins this, I think it's going to be 4. That's my like inclination.
You sort of
You say
expect
about every
both
single
players
match,
to win a
Manny.
set.
I do.
This is about every single tennis match that's been on this pod, though.
I
Best of 5.
obviously 3 is the most likely. I just think like, yeah, maybe I'll just stay away there. I don't know.
No, but I think there is something to be said for that, though, because like I am surprised that 3 is longer odds than 4. Or shorter odds than 4. How would you say? Shorter odds than 4, because I actually do think 4 is more likely than 3.
Yeah.
Seems hard to believe that either of these guys would just run the other over.
I know. And Alcaraz 3-1 at plus 575. That's appetizing.
That's really appetizing, actually.
Like, I don't like these Djokovic sides, but if you're going to take the Alcaraz side, like, it's not going to be straight sets, right? Djokovic is going to get a set.
Is there an Alcaraz to win and both players to win a set line anywhere? So you can get a 3-1 or 3-2.
That's good. I like
I'm sure it exists. If not, it will exist by the time the match starts.
I don't know if this book has it. Oh, to win. Oh, Djokovic plus 125, Alcaraz plus 225. I prefer the 3-1 at plus 575. I think that's a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because like both players are going to win a set here. I'm pretty convinced by that.
Well, it's just fundamentally better, right? Because if you play like, I mean, honestly, you could just play the 3-1 and the 3-2, put like a unit on each, and you're putting down 2 units. And if you win 4.75 if he wins in 4, and it's like 6.5 if he wins in 5. Yeah. So it's just like mathematically, you just play the 3-1 and the 3-2. Like this line is not the right line to play.
Yeah, I would agree with that. This is also interesting. Over 1.5 match points here is plus money.
Ooh.
And the problem is that so often, like, the match point comes on serve, and so just like on serve, like, you're just naturally more likely than 50% to win a point, right?
If it's a 40 love point, like someone's serving for the title and it's a 40 love point, it's very, very rare, I feel, that like they just end up like winning it on that point. Because like their nerves that factor in, and like they're just trying to bomb like they'll double fault, like just from the eye test, like it feels that way. Like Alcaraz has done that against Rune and Medvedev. Like I feel like if Alcaraz,
it's probably gonna be Djokovic who has it, right?
But if Alcaraz has it, that's surely going to hit.
Just I wouldn't surely, because if it's a 40-15 or a 40-30 point, he won't do that.
It's true. It's plus money, though. I think it's 50-50. Where did I see it? There's so many lines. It's somewhere. Oh, right here. Plus 120.
Yeah. The problem is if Djokovic is serving, I have full trust in Djokovic to close out a match. Like,
okay. I like the over on breaks here. I wish I would take it if they offered like over 6.5 and it wasn't juiced and it was like minus.
I don't actually. I'm actually leaning the under at the plus money. I think the line is really right, but I just like Djokovic again. Like I'll say, like I said before, like Djokovic. I know the returners haven't been amazing, but like that's been Djokovic's lifeline. Is like basically placing the serve. Like he's. Like that's been his lifeline this tournament. And he hasn't been doing that well on return. Like I guess the question comes back to like, how often is Djokovic going to break Alcaraz?
Yeah.
It won't be easy.
And I don't think Djokovic is, and I think like if it's not easy for Alcaraz to break Djokovic, or if it's not easy for, if it's not like it won't be easy for Djokovic to break Alcaraz. And I don't think Alcaraz is going to break Djokovic very easily, because if Djokovic can't break Alcaraz, he'll have to button down his own serve in order to stay in the match. So
What about the player specific ones, like Alcaraz over 2.5 or Djokovic? You think these are perfectly set?
I mean, the line is telling you that, right? It's a 1 break difference, right? It's a 1 break difference for 3.5 games, which, given that Djokovic is probably the better tiebreak player, probably makes it's probably close. I think the juice covers it up if it's a little bit off. Because, like, Manny, you were saying before, if you really think Djokovic goes under 3.5 and Alcaraz goes over 2.5, like, then you're saying you really think that Alcaraz is going to win the match at better than 50-50. Right? If a guy breaks serve more, if player A breaks serve more than player B, then they're going to win.
Not necessarily.
That's
Not necessarily because, well,
the only thing that plays into it is tie breaks at that point.
I like over 2.5 for Alcaraz. For Djokovic, I think that's the perfectly set line. I don't really. I'd lean under based on how he's returned this tournament, but like based on this game script where I see breaks, I'd probably stay away there or lean over. I just see there being multiple breaks in a set, and that's more the reason why I leaned the way I did. But I don't know. Alcaraz is not going to pull a sinner and not break this entire match. He's gonna find a break somewhere.
Yeah, I agree. If it was 1.5, I would be all over it, right? Like,
right.
I think this is the proper line for Alcaraz. I think it's probably pretty close to the proper line for Djokovic too. You know, honestly, after I look at this, I'm going to stay away. Like, I'm not on the under on the breaks anymore. Like, because I think it's probably the right line. I don't think it should be juiced as much as it is, but the VIG kind of covers that. So
it's actually hard to predict the game script. Like, is there going to be a lot of breaks here, or is
it's really hard to predict the game script here? Really, this is not nearly as easy as the Aussie Open final was like the easiest game script ever to predict. Yeah. Like, I made a killing on that on the props because I just thought it was a very easy game script to predict. This one's really hard.
It's hard.
When the win factor as well, you sort of want to watch how difficult it is serving tomorrow for both players to sort of make that sort of judgment.
You do, but the problem is all these props go away
at
9 a.m. Eastern, right? Or at 2 p.m. when the match starts.
I know. So just to recap, I'm gonna play the Alcaraz money line at plus 165, and I'm gonna play that prop kind of as a hedge with that plus 500 Djokovic to win and over 2 tiebreaks. Obviously, both can lose, but like, I feel like if Djokovic wins, there's gonna be some tiebreaks, and like, he just plays tiebreaks superior to everyone else. So I feel like if it gets to a tiebreak, I would favor Djokovic in that scenario. So those are going to be my 2 plays. It's going to be kind of a light betting for me, you know, just to kind of enjoy it. What about you, Josh?
I agree with you. I'm not having a bet myself, but I'd be on the Alcaraz money line. At the prices, I'd be on the Alcaraz money line, but as a bit of a fun play, Djokovic to smash his racket. If you want to have a bit of fun.
Nice. If he does, we'll be thinking of you. All right.
Or to shush the crowd, maybe something like that. I think he did that in the last match, didn't
he?
Yeah,
Djokovic should shush the crowd should be like even money, because I do think that will happen. But smash, I feel like Djokovic doesn't smash as many. Like, he does sometimes still, but I don't think he does it as much as he did in the past. Like, he used to be much more of a smasher, but now I think he feels bad with the crowd and everything when he does it. So
he's also learned his lesson after that, hitting that lineswoman. I'm not.
But racket smash but that actually supports a racket smash, because like there's no you smash the racket, there's no danger, right? Whereas I feel like hit a ball or something, that's a lot more dangerous.
Yeah,
true.
Like, you smash a racket, you're just getting a code violation. That's it. And then you have to pay a fine, right? Isn't isn't it a few $1,000s something if you smash the racket, you have to pay a fine?
Something like that.
I wonder what Djokovic does with those $2,500 fines, given his the amount of money he brings in. Like, here's a €3,000 fine for smashing that racket. Like,
yeah,
you probably asked them like which charity would you like me to donate it to? Like,
what are your plays, Brad, on this match?
So I've got none of the standard plays. I think they're all pretty darn well set. I might go with I still gotta look at the aces and doubles. There might be a play there. The under on the aces looks appetizing at first glance based on the win, like Josh said, but it's a little tough. I'm on the Djokovic and the 2+ tie breaks at 500. I do think it's gonna be a competitive match. And then yeah, I think that might be it. It's gonna be a really light. Like, I might go on some of the. They have like these 1-1, 2-2, 3-3 props also in multiple sets. I might hop on one of those too. But but like I'll just hop on like competitive match type stuff. But it's gonna be light. I might not have more than 3-4 units on this match. It's gonna be a pretty light match. I don't see like the books have this one. Like, I think it's a dual edge problem, right? Like, A, the books have this one pretty well placed, and then B, like I think it's a really hard match to predict. Which is ironic because we've seen this on clay, but I think we all agree it's not going to go like the way the French did.
No, it's not. Yeah, I mean, this is also a match where you just kind of sit back, open up, get some strawberries and cream, and just like sit on your couch.
I'm not going to follow the strawberries and cream because I'm not really like. I'm not like that. Like, Manny for every tournament does like the tournament thing. Like, I'm not like that. Like, I don't know, but I am excited. My tennis match tomorrow morning got canceled. It's supposed to rain here, so I think I'm actually gonna get to watch. It's exciting time.
Wow, exciting! Yeah. You're the only one because I think both of us are working, right?
Yeah, I'm super bummed I'll get to watch this live. I'll definitely be waking up for it. So.
I'm kind of hoping it goes really long, so I'll be able to catch like the 5th set if it goes.
I mean, I'll be streaming it. I just really can't like focus in, but obviously I'll be seeing highlights and stuff and following scores and all that stuff, but. Well, anyway,
the other option, Manny, if you were willing to do it, would be to tape it and then watch it when you get home right away and just not use your phone all day.
That's so hard to do in this day and age.
I've done it. I've done it. I pulled it. I did it for the the French final.
Yeah.
Against Casper?
Yeah, because I had a match during that time. So I turned off my phone. And then I got home immediately and I watched it right away. And I didn't turn my phone on until like 4:00.
It's so hard. Plus, I can't because I'm at work and like, in case like my boss has to reach me or something, it's like just.
Yeah, but you only answer. I guess it's harder for you.
It's really hard. It's really.
I would say you only answer like phone calls.
Plus, you turn on the phone when you get home, and then the first thing is an ESPN notification saying like.
Yeah.
You see, that's why you got to keep the phone off until you've watched it. It's got to be like a no phone for like the day. You just.
If I was home and off and I had like some family commitments and stuff, I get it. But like being at work, it's tough.
Yeah, it's hard. No, I get it's hard to execute. I'm more teasing than anything else.
All right, guys. Well, enjoy this because probably the quality of tennis is going to be something insane at points.
Well, this is a really fun matchup, right? Like, regardless of like, even if they're not playing that great, it's just such a fun, like, because like they are different styles and like styles make fights. And like, I think this is a fun style. Matchup.
I mean, but two the best athletes for sure. It's not even close, right?
I don't know, 2 best athletes. There are other really good athletes on the tour. 2 best players by far.
I think you combine player with athleticism, and like it's the highest threshold there is.
Yeah, maybe a combination of player athleticism, but there's some really good athletes on the tour. I mean,
true.
Even guys like Juan Manuel Cerundolo are really good athletes.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Juan Manuel Cerundolo play? Like, he makes some incredible gets.
Only on clay, and his tactics are horrible. So yeah, he's a good athlete, but tennis wise, he's horrible.
Well, he also doesn't really have much besides a foil. He's got a lot of problems with his game. Like, I brought up Juan Manuel Cerundolo to be funny, but like, yeah, I actually really enjoy watching him on clay. Like, he's one of my more preferred guys to watch.
Well, he lost 2-0 to Offner today. So if you watch some tape, you can, tune into some like.
I might go on. Is it on Tennis TV or can I go on the ATP Challenger app? It was a challenge match, right?
It's on the Challenger app. Yeah, if you want to watch this great athlete lose 2-0.
I'm going to go watch some Offner or Cerundolo. I might have to get off this Zoom so I can do that.
I could tell you because I bet Juan Manuel Cerundolo to win today.
Was it on Clay? I
Oh.
got a solid
On
challenge.
Clay,
Was it on
yeah.
Clay?
On Clay.
What's his price?
What?
Was his price in that match? Is the underdog?
No, he was plus like 150, I think. And that was only because
Okay.
Oscar played 3 long sets the previous day. So I was betting the spot. And I got disappointed. I woke up and it was 2-love or 2-1 or whatever. So
Ooh.
yeah, terrible. All right, guys. So we're going to take a quick break here, and then we will come back and preview the draws for the ATP 250s. Back to the 250 life.
Yeah, back to 250 grind, baby.
Yeah. Which we don't mind. We don't mind. We're not biased towards the slams. We like everything. So we'll be back in a few.